Hello, hello. So today I want to take a look at these whites semi-dress boots that I had built and also do a couple comparisons. One comparing the leather and the other one comparing another semi-dress boot build that I had done. So first, let's just take a look at this. Is a white semi-dress built or boot that I had built via Baker's because I like getting a single E width. Specs of this boot are a semi-dress, hand sewn stitch down, whites with Horween CXL Horsehide. This is the natural. And we have the contrast stitching with the natural horsehide, unstructured toe, single leather midsole, and looks like a Vibram heel, and a natural stain midsole. So I got this boot at White's Father's Day sale and got them recently. So it took a long time via Baker's, which it usually does, but I get pretty much all of my whites through Baker's now, just because I like all of the customization. I think you can do the customization through whites as well, which I might try at some point, but just been using Baker's for the most part. So the first comparison that I want to do is the leather, and to compare with the Merriam horse butt natural, which obviously looks very similar, but very different leathers. The Horween Horsehide CXL is obviously, it's very thin, actually pretty much the same thickness as the Merriam horse butt. So these are lined, but it's just much softer in temper. They're always just kind of comfortable straight out the box. This is literally after one wear, so these unstructured toes are definitely going to just collapse. I already have, a good roll going. It actually kind of reminds me a lot of the Guidi horse butt, very similar temper and feel. I think the Guidi is just slightly nicer, but that's kind of to be expected. But I really love the Horween Horsehide. I first got it with Wesco on the Mr. Lou's. I got the Horween Horsehide. You can also get it with the Merriam horse butt, the black pair. And I just love the way that leather is aging. I also had it on a pair of secondhand whites, like farmer rancher boots that were also a unstructured toe. So it's kind of, those are sort of my inspiration, kind of recreating this, but then going down the, obsession with getting these lighter colored boots now. This sort of seems to be something I've noticed about myself is, I'll get an idea in my head and then I just get a bunch of the same thing without sort of subconsciously, not even noticing. So now this year I have a bunch of natural lighter colored boots that I've picked up, and I probably won't keep them all. So I just kind of gather a bunch of things. I did the same thing with black boots for a while. And I do the same thing. You'll see some foreshadowing. I have another video about some lighter rough out that I just kind of, decide I'm gonna go pursue. But then back to the leather comparison. This Merriam natural horse butt is very stiff in comparison. So the temper is just completely different. This is unlined, and so is the other pair. These boots will show up in another comparison that I have of this same leather on a different boot, sticking with that weird theme of collecting the same thing over in different varieties from different makers. But just completely different. I've been trying to break these in for a while, and they just barely, this leather, for whatever reason, this and on the other pair of the other boots that I have, it doesn't break in. And I have a ton of Merriam horse butt, and for whatever reason, this natural horse butt is just a different animal. It's like, maybe it just gets less treatment, so it doesn't soften up at all. So it's super stiff, tough temper, and also it's gets the water spots if you look at it the wrong way. I think even like this pair, you can see it. I think that was like within a minute of wearing them. Got like a nice water spot doing some dishes or something. Of course, I was like, yay. So I need to condition these. Probably should have done that before I even started wearing them. Same with these, I need to condition them. I wore these one day, like I said, got some spots already. Not a big deal. I expect them to, patina. That's kind of the point with these light leathers. You want them to patina, but it is what it is. But totally different leather from two different makers, both horse. And then on to my second comparison, sort of a tale of like two boots. This is the white semi-dress that I had made last Black Friday, 2024. And this was, I had a secondhand white or semi-dress way back in the day that was dress brown on the 55 last. And I just really liked those a lot, and they were on a leather sole, so that was part of me recreating that again with these. But those were a structured toe, 55 last, brown dress, and it was a double leather sole. So these ones I went with a single leather sole to sort of make them as sleek as possible. And then these are sort of the opposite. I went kind of all in. These are brown Horween Horsehide, so the same leather but brown, and it is tougher. They actually used it seems like a thicker lining with these than they did with the natural. And obviously a structured toe. I've got the brogue cap toe, got the beefy midsole on a V-bar and the quabog heel. These are just tanks, basically. This is the tank version. Just completely different. And so these are almost like exact opposites. It's got the day and the night, beefy tank, and the heel is even taller on the tank ones. I don't remember actually choosing the heel height. It was kind of like they just made some decisions for me here. But yeah, it's like got the Vibram heel lift versus the Quabog, leather sole, single, very thin, and then beefcake over here. And I've worn these a bunch, and they're just like barely breaking in. I haven't even broke the midsole in, but they're comfortable. They're both comfortable. I will also say that these are not, neither of these two are on the 55 last. I got these on the 461 sprung toe last, which I like a lot for my foot. I don't love the 55 personally. The 461 fits my foot, you know, half or full down, and then that single E width fits me perfect. It's similar to the 55, but has a slightly less aggressive arch support. So it's not quite the same level of arch support, but still quite beefy compared to a non-Pacific Northwest brand. And I'll also say I really also love the hand sewn stitch down from whites. I know a lot of people think this kind of welt is ugly, but I think they look great. And I did get the single as opposed to the double stitch down. I have the double stitch down on a pair of engineers I got at the same time that I'll show as well at some point. But I think if you're gonna get whites, you gotta get the hand sewn. That's what makes this special. If I'm just gonna get like a machined version, I know they're a little cheaper, and there's a reason for that. These are, you know, hand sewn by skilled craftsmen. I just imagine, like, you know, the old guys in the shop that have been there a long time. Maybe they'll stop making these someday because it's too much of a pain, and all those guys aged out and retired at some point. But I'll be happy that I have these, and maybe it's just in my head, but I think they feel better on my foot. They're more comfortable. And, you know, if I'm gonna get a whites, I'm gonna get the hand sewn. Otherwise, I could just go to Nick's or any other maker that is making just a regular machine stitch. So that is my quick comparison of my Tale of Two Boots, night and day, completely different. Just, you know, wanted to highlight how different a boot can turn out based on the specs that you choose. Just a completely different personality. Same whites, semi-dress. I chose a different last than you would not find on the whites website, which is the 55. But, you know, this would be the sole treatment you would get if you ordered it through whites directly through their website. The half sole V-bar, which is cool. It's a tank, but you can't get this leather through whites, so that is another reason to use Baker's. I really love horse leather of all kinds, is my favorite, and I really love this Horween Horsehide. Obviously I love a lot of my Merriam as well, but just completely different temper, and I really love the way that the Horween Horsehide ages in comparison sometimes. So that's what I have today. Hope you enjoy. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll catch you on the next one. Ciao, ciao.